All right. Yeah, let's just go for it. Just see what comes out.
Let's do it.
All right, man.
Rock and roll.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever inplayLIVE podcast. Tom Ritzker here with Mr. Andrew Pace, your educator, your informer, your instructor, and your leader, fearless. What are we doing here? Well, we're trying to spread the message about inplayLIVE, and Andrew will speak to that a little bit more, but basically creating a group of people that are breaking the books when it comes to sports wagering and making a living doing value wager investing. So, Andrew, tell us a little bit about inplayLIVE. How did it start? When did it start? And what's a little bit of the background on it?
Yeah, so for me personally, like I come from a finance background, as you know, and just to give you guys a little bit more background, like Thomas Ritzker, we call him Ritzker. He's a member of inplayLIVE, and he's just been his feet have been basically swept from underneath him with the success that he's had personally, sports betting with our curriculum, but also his love of sports. Myself personally, I came from a background in finance, like I said, and I just really wanted to take the 9 to 5 out of my life. You know, obviously work in a career in sports, and ultimately to do that it took a lot of trial, a lot of error, a lot of stipulation, but I was able to take the philosophies of finance, you know, the age-old, century-old Benjamin Graham taught Warren Buffett value investing mentality, apply that to the world of sports, and like when I did, my life completely changed. So you know, it's been over a decade for me personally, sort of mastering everything, and why we created inplayLIVE and how we kind of got here today. You know, we're approaching 200 members as we're making episode 1 of this podcast, is because I was really able to take what I did and turn it into curriculum that teaches others to do the same. So, like you know, kind of where we are at today, like I said, we're approaching 200 members and like remarkable success stories inside the group. And now we're at the point today where I've got people applying for jobs outside of inplayLIVE daily. And I've got pre-game professionals who have struggles marketing their product and their businesses, reaching out to me daily, trying to pitch me on them working with us. And one of the things they do is they just volunteer their results to me. And there's these guys reaching out to me that show that they gave out 75 picks over a 2-week window to their members, and they returned 2 units. So I don't want to bash those guys, but when it comes to pregame sports betting, that's kind of what people are doing in the industry right now. And we want to change the industry. So our inplayLIVE formula has yielded members just in this last weekend as many as 100 unit profits. So really the whole rationale behind what we're doing is to get away from that massive bankroll pregame mentality and get into the you don't need a huge amount of money to start mentality. inplayLIVE, live sports betting yields a greater edge and a greater profit than pregame. And that's kind of where we are today.
It's pretty cool, man. And it's been fun to see just even like, it's been 8 to 10 weeks since the thing launched, and how it's already taken on a life of its own within the group, within the interactions you're seeing, people bringing stuff to you, creating ideas. It's pretty cool. What is your long-term vision for the group? Kind of like, what do you guys see it turning into over the next year or two?
Right. So if you're like Ritzker here, who was one of our first 5 members, the business in the last 10 weeks has changed drastically from what we initially kind of launched.
Yeah.
Right. So when we launched, we were strictly an e-learning platform, and the whole mentality was buy the course, kind of like buying a book, and good luck, right? You're off to the ground running on your own. And really quickly, what we established through feedback from our webinar, our surveys, all of our online information that's out there was that people actually wanted a more hands-on approach. They wanted help beyond the literature, the education, or in our case, the masterclass that is that we have for our members. And they wanted a monthly product that included my pregame picks, even though I really bark and harp against pregame betting.
Of course.
They want my live value picks as I'm taking them, and they want live streams when it's too intense for me to just be able to post one wager. Like as an example, in the NHL, the playoffs just ended here as we're making episode 1. It was very easy during a commercial break to let everyone know, hey, you know what, we got a few minutes to think about taking this next wager. This is the strike price we're going to take it at. and people had the ability to get a notification on their phone, see that that's what I was going to take, but I hadn't taken yet myself, and then get that wager in. Whereas now in the world of NFL and NCAA, you don't have that kind of time, so people are actually streaming live with me. So as far as vision goes, it's changed so much in 10 weeks that it's really hard for me to comment on, what the future looks like when I know that being a startup, we're really able to, adapt and change as things continue to come. But I mean, gosh, we have a daily fantasy football league inside of inplayLIVE for all of our members where they're competing for the inplayLIVE trophy, competing for $1,000 US cash. We have a survivor pool inside of inplayLIVE. Obviously, you're the one that's organizing that, so you're familiar with that one. We are planning to, barring health restrictions and travel restrictions, have annual member meetings and conferences in Vegas where we have, just crazy awards and parties relating to our best sports value analyst, the best wager made of the year, the best mentor within our group, and really ultimately, to put it in a really broad spectrum vision, we just want to become the hub for live sports investing.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think having seen that change over the last few weeks too, it's been a ton of fun, and I think people are getting so much value from that while you're providing that back-end educational piece, people do need to be shown the way a little bit. What you've done is very unique in the sense that, identifying those trends and knowing when to pull the trigger and when not to is, when you do lay it out, there is a recipe for it, but there is a lot of intuition and learned skill through that I myself, even, being by your side for years and years and knowing the games and knowing how things work, have seen wow, that's a pretty, it goes way beyond that too. So
beyond the curriculum, you mean?
Yeah, exactly, beyond the curriculum.
Totally.
So I couldn't say how valuable that curriculum is, reading that and seeing it on paper, but then seeing it put into action.
Right.
Huge help for people like myself who are kind of changing our ways.
Right.
For those who don't know, I used to be a terrible pregame. I'm probably the cookie cutter client of just pick the favorites, make parlays, take your wild shots.
Have fun but lose.
Have fun but lose, exactly. So it's been a total change of philosophy for me, and I'm still learning how to let go of bad bets, how to let go of chasing, all those sort of things that you teach. But just kind of sticking with the program, and you can definitely see when I go through trends of doing that, especially in the live sessions, it pays off.
Right. So let me ask you a question. So what was your starting bankroll when you joined inplayLIVE?
Probably a couple $100. I bought into a new account and got a welcome bonus, so $200-300.
So a couple hundred plus the couple hundred welcome bonus.
Yeah, exactly.
So is that number higher now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now? I mean, I probably profited in units. I started off betting maybe $20, $25 units, and I'm probably up a couple hundred units by now at least in just a month or two's time, right? And that's doing it once or twice a week. You've been working full time, spending time away, all that sort of stuff. So
right.
College football, we'll see this weekend.
So I think that's one of the biggest things, and people really do think what we do is too good to be true. Mm-hmm. When I tell them what I do, they see the ad, they're like, "Oh, this guy says he turned $2,000 and $162,000 in a season. This guy's a scammer." And one of the biggest reasons as to why we created inplayLIVE was to change the perception of the professional aspect of this industry, because there are relentless scammers out there. And a lot of pregame pros say that they literally started their business just to supplement their income, so that when they sell a pick to someone, it hedges their loss if they lose that pick, because they've taken it themselves as well. They do believe there's value there, but they're hedging their loss by selling that pick at the same time. And what we're doing isn't generate the best pregame pros. They generate 50 to 60 units per season, the absolute best. And in order to make a living off that, those units need to be obviously pretty hefty, right? So, for someone like you looked at this and went, hey, let's give it a shot. Let's put a couple $100 in. And like you said, now that's up 200x from your unit size, right? So it's, and you're not, like you said, you're not even doing it full time. So, we've had members that just this last weekend did 100 units, and people just don't believe it. But obviously our members, if you see inside our community what members are saying, which you can obviously click on our website, we have a review section where we've shown some of that. It's off the chart. People can't even believe how quickly you can make money doing this, right?
Yeah.
And it's not guaranteed. I get all these messages, sorry if I'm talking about you, but of complete morons, literal morons.
Yeah.
Can you guarantee me a profit? Is this guaranteed? If you know anything about investing in any platform, whether you're day trading, whether you're value investing, whether you're buying into indexes, ETFs, stocks of any kind, even GICs, which are called guaranteed income certificates, if that bank goes under, you have the potential to lose your money, right? Yeah. So there's nothing in this world ever that is guaranteed. Every single individual that we're wagering is extremely high risk, because in our circumstance, the odds that you win it are actually less than the odds that you lose it are more than the odds that you win it. We're hitting at a clip of about 35 to 40%, but we're hitting at an average price of typically 4.0 or plus 300. So that's where we actually do yield those profits. Yeah. And a lot of people can't wrap their head around the fact that you lose more bets than you win, but you actually make unbelievable money doing it.
Yeah. Right? So if you're watching this and you haven't seen the website, you haven't seen the introductory webinar, there's a free tutorial. Where do you find that?
If you just go to inplayLIVE.com, at the very top it says, do you want to join our free training? And it's about 45 minutes of some of my number one secrets that I use to apply to sports betting.
Yeah, so check it out. If sports wagering, sports betting, even just turning your Saturdays and Sundays into winning ones when you're doing it for fun, check it out, right? So let's move on to a bit of education, because that's kind of the background of why you started this, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Is to help people learn about the different aspect of sports wagering. How can it become profitable? And what better way to start than talk about where you identify value in the first place? And that is going against the grain. Every single day we see hundreds, thousands of sporting events go out there that are handicapped by the books, handicapped by professionals, and they use infinite algorithms to produce these, right? But what happens is that the public's money starts to come in. When these markets open up, these pregame bettors, not us of course, come in and start betting on these things and moving the lines. Mm-hmm. So talk to the people about, what does that mean when a line starts to move, when money starts to come in, when public bets on something? What does that do for you?
Yeah, so I think the most simple analogy to make here is using a roulette wheel. Okay, so let's just pretend typical roulette wheel, I think it has like 38 numbers on it, and then the single zero and the double zero. There's 18 red slots, there's 18 black slots, right? If 90% of the people betting at the casino bet on black, how much red pays always stays the same. Right. So I always say to people, imagine if red paid more, where the odds of winning are 47% when you bet on black or red. But all of a sudden, red became 51%. And you could just bet on that for the rest of your life. And you know the odds of hitting it are now becoming more and more and more profitable as people continue to bet on black. When people bet on sports, casinos and sports books hedge their risk, as you know. And when they hedge their risk, what they do is they make the line less wagered, more appealing to bet on. So, like a very typical spread. Let's say the Chiefs are playing the Ravens. They played each other on Monday Night Football 2 days ago, and the line was 3.5. Well, let's say the public thought that the line should have been 4, 4.5, 5, 7, whatever, and money just pours in. Or maybe they're just fans and they have no clue, but more people bet on the Ravens than they bet on the Chiefs. You will see that line, that opening line of 3.5, turn into 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, and so on and so forth, where from a statistical standpoint, even with the VIG, which is the cut that the house takes on a sports bet, even with the VIG, you can actually start to or potentially see value. And one of the things online, when you look up all of these, how to make a living on sports betting, how can you profit from sports betting, all these other things, they flippantly skip over the detail of actually how to find value. They skip over that, and they basically put it in your hands to figure out, well, how the hell do you do it? And there's so many different ways that you could theoretically find value or justify value. But one of the most simple ways is the public driving the line too far in one direction. All other things constant, right? If a significant player gets injured and the line moves, that doesn't necessarily mean there's value. If the weather was initially for sun and it turns to snow, and the total drops from 55.5 in an NFL game down to 47.5, that adjustment is for a reason. So all other things constant, just public money moving the line is where theoretically there could be pregame value. But we're talking about value that is like razor thin. Like
Yeah.
the best of the best of the best people that do this, they get a 3% edge, but 2% is very, very typical. So you're winning typically at a rate of 54 or 55% on bets that pay at 1.9 or minus 110 in American odds. And I mean, you got to have a huge bankroll to do that, number one. But number two, I also just find it like kind of boring.
Yeah.
Like that's a grind, you know?
Yeah, I think that's something that you emphasize in your materials, is that there's so many opportunities to find value within a sports game, right? But coming back to that public money, that's where those opportunities are created a little bit more, right? So all the public money driving things one way creates a window for you within that game going the other way.
100%.
Yeah, and so a big part of what inplayLIVE is about going against the grain and taking into consideration all those factors, and just betting smarter rather than just exposing yourself to what the public is doing.
Yeah.
So when the public moves a line, and a lot of that is something you talk about in your course, is recreational betting versus sharp betting versus what you're betting.
Right.
Tell everyone a bit about why your wagers are different from what a rec bettor or a mug bettor or just someone who picks pre-games. What do you do differently with your money?
Right. So I think first and foremost, when it comes to like recreational or entertainment betting, I just want to get this out of the way. It's fun.
Yeah.
Like it's freaking awesome.
I love it.
There's nothing like being in this room, because this is where the magic happens for me, as you can see the screens in the background, on a Sunday with all my buddies and I'm cheering for my teaser. Like I'm human. I love football and I love making some mug rec parlays, teasers, just to cheer for the action. And the thing is throughout the last decade, I've become a lot smarter at them, where I'm hitting those even at a higher clip. But I still don't consider that to be my bread and butter or how I generate an income by any means. So I think when it comes to like a recreational bettor, one of the biggest things that they do is they don't concern themselves with price. They don't concern themselves with the number that they're looking at. And you see it constantly in that room of people watching the NFL or any other sport for that matter.
I like the Chiefs, so I bet the Chiefs, and then you bet the Chiefs, and then you bet the Chiefs.
But also, the Chiefs are up 7-0 now, and you don't care what the spread is, or you don't care.
We just splash it in.
Yeah.
Keep
Get it
going,
in.
pile
Get it
on,
in now
right?
before they score again.
Yeah.
Right? That mentality profits Vegas and the sports books hugely, right? So I think it goes without say, that kind of betting is just plain stupid. If you're a recreational or entertainment bettor and you're doing that, you don't need to stop. You only need to stop if it's a problem. To me, if you're spending money on that kind of stuff, as long as you have a budget and as long as you stay disciplined and you don't break that budget, that's no different to me than going to see a movie. If it's entertainment, period. Right? As long as you're comfortable with the risk and 100% okay with consistently losing your money over time, because that's what you will do, right? And then obviously where we differ from there, or where we differ from a pregame professional who's actually sharply found a great line.
Right.
We might bet on that same line that the pregame pro does, right? Like you can see our results videos on YouTube at any time, which we're constantly posting updates to. You'll see that we do bet pregame, right? We get an average price typically of 2.14 or plus 114 versus the typical minus 110 or 1.9. So we do tend to like underdogs. We do tend to like underdogs. But then really what it comes down to is when money is pouring into one particular side of a game, the in-play wagers that are available to us become that much more appealing, especially when the underdog is competing, right? Mm-hmm. If the underdog is in the game or ahead.
Unlike the Blue Jays right now.
yeah, exactly, right? But yeah, that's where we can really... You can make game-changing money in a really short period of time. Like, there are games where I am wagering $250 per unit, and I walk away from that one game with $18,000. Like, it's happened this season already twice. It happened last season about 4 or 5 times. It's not... Those are the great games, right?
Yeah.
It happens, right? So...
Yeah, well, I think part of that, too, is, like... a lot of people fall into the trap of thinking that every single game has to be a part of the plan, right? And
100%.
I think that in the streams, especially the last couple of weeks, you've talked about eliminating games from your schedule and narrowing them down, and even if you're a recreational bettor, knowing that like, hey, maybe this game's not a good one to bet on. Like, I have no idea what's going on here, and getting a feel for that's kind of an important part too.
Well, there's something about the NFL in particular. I think college is the same, but the NFL's a bigger market and a better. Well, I love college football, but a better product, you could argue. It's more profitable, et cetera, et cetera. The way the day is organized caters itself to degenerate public sports betting. You string together a morning parlay, you miss. The afternoon starts, and like you said, you stop being selective. You feel like you have to take.
Oh, yeah.
We feel like you have to take that next game.
Double down, right?
What do you like in the Lions? What do you like in the Lions Cardinals this week? I don't know. Well, I'm betting it, and you just add it to your ticket, right?
Yeah.
We've all done it, and the NFL caters itself towards those chasing opportunities, and then finally Sunday night hits. And you're either stringing it with the Monday nighter or you're stringing it with the over and the under, and you're betting way bigger than you did in the morning, and you've completely screwed up this whole idea of trying to make money in a day, and you're just trying to dig yourself out of a hole. And if you don't, for some people that are probably listening to this right now, you've experienced it. You go home and you're fucked, right? So that's precisely what we want to stay away from. So definitely we are ridiculously selective on the matches that we wager, and sometimes for me that means watching an entire game without placing a bet. Right?
Yeah, totally. Now, you and I both, we've talked to tons of friends, colleagues, people out in sports arenas, things like that, about, naturally when you talk about a game or you're at a game, you're talking about like, oh, do you have a pick on it? Do you have a bet on it? Do you take anything? And tons of people, like, when they hear the sort of stuff that we're trying to do, they obviously get a little bit off put, right? Maybe it's because they're a little bit kind of scared of it. They don't understand it.
They think we're scammers.
They think it's silly.
Yeah.
Whatever. Maybe it's too much work.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who's like kind of on that fence or thinking about it, sees like an idea? Like, how do you get your feet wet? How do you try it? How do you kind of come to the other side?
Well, I think one of the biggest things with inplayLIVE specifically, and the changes that we've made in the last 10 weeks, I'm sorry if I'm not including you in this, but like, who can afford $60 to try out our course? And we have a promo code for all of you here today. It's Ritzker podcast for 40% off of our price. That gets you down to $59 per month. You can cancel if you don't like the product. So many people ask us for trials. So many people ask us for free picks. But the thing is that it is not fair to our membership or our community to be giving away freebies to people when our system is so effective and when everyone else has paid for it. So I look at it and I go, what is the harm in trying it out for $60? Think of all the other things in your life that you spend way more than $60 on.
Uber last night.
Yeah, right?
Uber Eats.
Whether it's going for dinner, buying a case of alcohol, your Netflix membership, whatever it is, 99% of those things that you're spending money on don't have the potential to generate revenue for you.
Or if you make one stupid bet.
Yeah.
Right? Like betting on the Jays today. There goes $60, right?
Yeah.
But
totally.
If you have the pregame line.
Yeah, totally. 100%. And from that standpoint, I think it's incredibly important to give it a shot with the knowledge of knowing that you don't need to make the decisions yourself in the beginning or ever, because I am telling you what to wager and when to wager on it.
Yeah.
In our private Facebook community where you get notifications to your phone, number one, and then number two, you're streaming live with me, right? So if you're having concerns about getting your feet wet, or even if you do think that we're scammers, I'm pretty sure a lot of us have been in worse situations than, dumping $60 where you're like, shoot, I wish I got that back.
Yeah.
All of our members have been just thrilled with the product, so that's really all I can say on that.
Yeah, who hasn't spun a roulette wheel before, right?
Exactly, yeah. Double
green. Well, that's a pretty good recap, I think. We're like kind of an introduction to inplayLIVE, what we're trying to do, the environment, the value that's there, the group that communicates,
totally,
the live streams. It's all a ton of fun. And I think it's pretty much as much or as little as you want to make out of it. And even if you're kind of a recreational guy who's just following it once a week or something, like I have been recently, it's like there's still value because I make 2 bets and if they're both good bets and I hit, then my membership's paid for.
Right.
Right?
So
It's like,
that's, I mean, we get that from the outside a lot of
Yeah.
people that say, I don't have time to watch the games live. I just want picks on the board every day.
yeah,
And for us, I mean, some days it's one pick,
Yeah.
right? Because you have to be selective. Other days it's probably been as many as 6.
yeah,
But our pregame picks, we call them our primer picks, those have returned positively and paid for everyone's membership and then some. Of course, again, that's not guaranteed, but just from that standpoint alone, I think relative to what is being charged in the industry, a lot of these guys are charging $500 per pick, or the top pros are charging $800 per month, and you just have to wager such an extraordinary amount of money that not a lot of us have access to in order to cover, the cost of those picks or that subscription. So, yeah.
big time.
Yeah.
So, obviously, other than can I have a free trial, or what's your favorite pregame pick, your favorite 2 questions of
Yeah.
all time, what's probably the biggest question you've gotten so far from guys as it relates to actually what you're applying? So as it relates to making a good bet, what do you think? What do you think people are asking about the most?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think that I field a lot of questions about what the product really is. That's probably the number one thing, because it is a unique product. It isn't just a tipster giving out picks. So we kind of already answered that, but that is the number one question that I field overall. The second one would probably be people trying to figure out how you actually find value.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, the answer really is in our core curriculum,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We go into detail on the philosophies of how to find value across any sport anywhere in the world. And this is what's so crazy about it. I focus personally on North American sports. I'm most profitable in the MLB, the NBA, the NHL, the NFL, and the NCAA. Like, that's kind of my bread and butter. I don't bet a ton of tennis. We do really well on PGA and UFC as well. I left those one out. I don't bet a ton of tennis. I don't bet a ton of European football or soccer. But the philosophies from the core curriculum, members are applying it to Formula One. They're applying it to horse racing. They're applying it to European football and soccer, to tennis. We have a member who's focused on handball. We had a member clean up on the Tour de France, right?
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
Right? And they've literally taken data points from the philosophical level of our core curriculum on how to find value. So we did touch on how to find value today in one specific sense, but I think that we teach it in a far greater detail inside of inplayLIVE that is truly invaluable. And it just changes the way that you think about sports betting for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Completely. Right.
Absolutely. And it almost is a change of religion, if you will, right? Like, in the sense that if you do things a certain way now, it's kind of leaving that all behind if you want to do it seriously, right? It's like...
Well, it takes the degenerate sports betting mindset and turns it into, wait, I'm actually here to profit, and there's a way to do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So...
It's not just... You're not literally just spinning the wheel and getting lucky 8 out of 10 times.
Exactly.
That's not how it's working. Maybe we'll give everyone a little bit of a teaser, some insights into, let's say, tomorrow night's football game, Broncos-Jets. What is the inplayLIVE? What is Andrew on his live stream going to be looking for in that game that will create some potential value wagers?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things about inplayLIVE that I take so much pride in, and we've all been in this circumstance, right, where it's like you're in Vegas or you're in Atlantic City or wherever the hell it is that you're betting on sports, and you just see all these people extremely unhappy at the start of a football game, a start of a hockey game, whatever the case may be, and they're literally ripping up their tickets, throwing them in the trash.
Deleting them.
They're done, and they leave the sports book. At that point, we just felt the game out, and we're just getting started. So we have no skin in the game. We haven't lost anything yet, and here we go. So for tomorrow night's game, Broncos against the Jets.
1-point favorites on the road. Couple of bad quarterbacks. Couple of banged up teams.
Yeah, and what's the perception? Like, you tell me, what's the perception of that game?
Oh, shit. After Darnold's performance last week, it's all ugly. Jets are all banged up. They got 3 injured starters.
Right.
The Broncos are using Driscoll.
So what's the perception? Do you think it's going to be a shootout?
I think everybody thinks that game is going to have no points in it, I think.
Everyone...
What's the over-under? 39.
Everyone thinks that they won't score. And I promise you, someone in that game will score. right?
Yes.
The game will not end 0-0.
No.
So there might be some value there. Yeah.
Okay, so that's something to look for. Just an example, right?
Yeah.
Beyond that, other things we've got coming up this week that we'll be looking out for. NBA Finals kickoff tonight. The Heat are big underdogs. Maybe talk a little bit about how the Heat have paid inplayLIVE community.
I am obsessed with the Heat. They have paid so much. Oh my God.
For everybody
They've taken my bankroll, they've skyrocketed my bankroll. There's a few historic runs across multiple sports where the underdog continues not to get credit right down to the very end, and they win the title. And by no means am I saying the Heat are going to win. One of the things at inplayLIVE that we pride ourselves on is we never claim to know what's going to happen. It's all about the numbers.
They could still get swept here.
The Heat look amazing. 4 teams in NBA history prior to this NBA final have had 3 different leading scorers on their team in the previous 3 series, and all 4 of those have gone on to win the NBA title, and now the Miami Heat are the 5th team to have done that, where it was Adebayo, Dragic, and Butler are the 3 different people that have led the scoring in 3 different series.
Yeah.
So who do you focus on? And then there's obviously Tyler Hero, who I didn't even mention there, which is kind of the next guy up, who's scoring like an absolute machine and is more confident than ever. So
on and off the court.
I'm so excited. I'm definitely going to be looking for value on the Heat, and that doesn't mean that they will win, and it doesn't mean I will take them to win.
Yeah.
I will be looking on for value on the Heat for the next 4 to 7 games.
Right, and that's just a PSA to everyone who's slamming the Lakers at 1.3 before every game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What else do we have coming up this week? Baseball playoffs are obviously on. 8 games, historical day.
Yep.
We've already come through a few of them.
Yeah, we're 2 for 4 today at plus money, so we've made a little bit.
Yeah, what do we get? Marlins we got.
We got Marlins, we got Astros. We missed the White Sox, but they're down 3 here. And by the time this is printed, you guys will know the result of that one. And then we definitely missed the Jays.
And the stinky Reds.
I had the other side.
Should have been a hit.
I had the other side of that game. But anyways, MLB playoffs, we have unbelievable baseball strategies that people just don't look at ever when it comes to the world of baseball.
I think baseball is notoriously a tough sport to bet, too. And so finding some value there could be a lot of fun for people.
It is fun. Right? Simple stuff.
Yeah, totally. Other than that, I think that we've pretty much made a good introduction to inplayLIVE. Again, check out the website, check out the free introductory session, hear about it, and then join the Facebook group, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That comes through the website that you get an invitation afterwards. How does that work?
So, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, click the subscribe button on YouTube, check out our free training, which there's a link posted to below. That's going to be 45 minutes of free training. And then join inplayLIVE. Really join inplayLIVE, and then you're going to really not be disappointed with the way that you can make money and the way that you think about sports betting going forward. And like I said, guys, please, if you listen to this podcast, use the promo code Ritzker Podcast. That's RITZ, or Z if you're in the States, KER Podcast, all one word. And we'll see you next week with more action. Do you know the topic for next week yet?
Not yet, but we'll kind of drop a little teaser ahead of time, and we'll next week we'll get into some meat and potatoes of some more strategies, talk a little bit about something different.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, team. We'll catch you next week.
Till next time.
Bang.